Pages of Wonder. Once again, I find myself alone in this little home, lost and hidden away in a small town in Warwickshire. A ginger cat has always accompanied me, however. Jasper, the feline friend that resembles marmalade, will always remain by my side. That much I am sure of. Yet, it also on this very day that I feel a sense of desperation, the will to escape. Not physically, there's no need to go hiking, but to find another world that can be done at a low cost. Minutes later, I stroll into my local bookstore. I feel my age as I do so, but I remain keen to make these walks. It is here that I can access foreign regions from the palm of my hand. It is here that I will quench my thirst for freedom, for the moment at least. I let my hand slink along the shelves, keeping tight the hope that the right book will come into vision any moment now, on the next shelf perhaps. No such luck. I scour the place, exchange glances with the quizzical old bookkeeper, who is now busying away with some other distant matter. What would I ask him? Even I don't quite know what I'm searching for. How on earth could he? And then I saw it. The scarlet cover was too enticing. I felt the fine bridge as I removed it from the shelf and let myself stare at the book's front. All that lay there was a full moon, dressed in gold. It was a thick piece of work, yet the book's outside gave no indication of its contents. However, as I opened it up and let my eyes run along the words, I discover something. I recognise the book. The name. A book I have read a couple of times before. A tale of heartbreak and lost love, yet elegantly written and elocuted. Yet, struck up in wonder and excitement with its rather fancy design, I walk straight to the counter, paying the amount to the elderly gentleman, and in turn leaving the store, my new book slotted neatly into the brown paper bag, one of the many stored behind the store counter. I did not waste a moment walking around my modest little cottage. I quickly sat myself down. Jasper then curled his furry form around my foot as I opened the scarlet book and began to read. Just as I remembered, the book was full of beautiful, with fine writing and descriptions. The author had traced a near perfect narrative. Their creativity and vivid verbal art lit up the story. In a matter of minutes, I was quite entranced and enamoured with what I was reading. It all came back to me as I continued to turn the pages. Jasper quietly shifting below me as I tore through the world that had now been set before me in my hands. I saw the girl that the author told me about, her journey through love, her meeting with a young man with whom she was deeply in love, their relationship, their struggles, and then I fell upon it, the inevitable part, the reason that I had probably no longer kept the previous book in my possession. The two young people fell apart, as I knew that they did. It was a great tragedy. They thought that they knew what was going on, but the man failed the young woman described. I had practically memorised the story from this point. This was not intentional. The fact was that the writing was all too vivid. It was simply destined to stick in your mind. There was no two ways about it. I knew what was to come as I turned the last page, but I was left dumbfounded. The girl was damned to a life of loneliness, but instead rekindled her relationship and went on to greatly prosper, beginning a family with the man that she had quarrelled with and committing herself to him. How had this happened? I felt my mind go fuzzy in this moment. Was I losing my memory? No, that could not be true. But somehow, the ending of this book had been changed completely. I shook myself, now paying closer attention to the words before me. Suddenly I saw it. Something in the print. It was Gothic, clearly different from the pages that preceded. It all made sense now. The page as well. It was so clearly not the same, tinged with a light accent of yellow, a branding of strangeness. This page was never part of the book to begin with. Someone had fashioned it, fashioned a bright ending into what had been a dark story. My thoughts bubbled for a couple of weeks. I wondered who had done this. As Jasper swooped through my legs as I strutted around the cottage, I set myself to making notes, trying to figure out who did this. Who would ever want to do something of this sort? As I said, I was unable to get these thoughts off my mind. It was Monday when they finally started to die down. But then a letter came. A scarlet letter. The exact same colour as the strange book that I had bought weeks earlier. An explanation? I walked to the door. Collecting the item, slitting it open, I read, "Meet me by the White Bear Inn, tomorrow, 2 p.m. I had obeyed. I stood on the street, holding both the book and the letter tightly in my grip. I was not sure why. I almost felt as though they would keep me safe. This was ridiculous, of course. It was soon after that a hooded man, sporting a tartan jacket, came to me and asked me to follow him. Usually I would not dream of following a stranger, but these circumstances were quite different. I knew that. He led me back onto my own street, before taking my hand and leading me back into the bookstore. The place was sparse. In an instant, he turned on me and revealed the inevitable. It was the shopkeeper, or, as I later learnt, Alan. Smiling warmly, he stepped forward before removing the book from my grip. "I'm sorry that I did not explain myself sooner. I wish that I had informed you of what I had done as you bought the book. I really do apologise." But why? My words came out far too quietly. I'm surprised that he even heard me as he speaks again. "I have grown tiresome of the miserable books in this store, and in turn I sought to resolve this problem," he begins again. "I found a reasonable way to do it, using the pages of old and damaged books to make lovely endings for the sad, modern pieces that we now find ourselves with here." He sighs. "The truth is, I cannot help but feel that my life has been led away from what I intended for it to be." He furrowed his brow, looking sadder by the moment. "I wish to bring joy to myself and others by showing what can be made of a story, a set of events. To this day, even in my old age, I believe that something exciting, positive is to be made of the story that I have led, my life." I feel something stir inside me. I cannot cry or smile. A warmness swells as I take him by the hand. I lock his gaze as I do so, trying as hard as I can to make the impression. "I know your pain." My new and improved book in my weaker grip, we walk through the doors of the store and walk out back into the village, Jasper swirling in between our legs as we stroll. It is time to make something more of our story.